You're cursing yourself if you do this. It's the Antichrist cross, which represents the brain and the heart and cutting the connection. The reason why this is bad is
that we are attacked. It's already started, and that's buying up all the farmland to make it hard to eat, and blowing up and burning up food processing centers, and cutting off supply lines like bridges and stuff like that, railways.
Welcome to WWIII, the wildest ride on YouTube where we react to the most outrageous, mind-blowing viral videos and crazy news stories from around the world. Hit that like, subscribe, comment and share. Let's get weird.
A car that runs on water instead of gasoline. Can it be true? Well, inventor Stanley Meyer made an announcement today in Colorado Springs.
Remember, these videos are for entertainment purposes only.
He says he's come up with a device that will hook up to any engine and allow it to run on good old H2O. News 13's Kurt Goff tonight on the possible impact of the water fuel cell.
Stanley Meyer says the answer to dependence on foreign oil lies all around us. In seawater, tap water, and rainwater. Any kind of H2O, he says, can power just about every type of engine. How? With the water fuel cell. It fits in the palm of his hand, but it could revolutionize the world.
You're talking about a pollution-free, totally new source of energy, the voltage dissociation of water.
The fuel cell converts water into a gas, hydrogen oxygen, which is released in the form of thermo-explosive energy.
So the water fuel injector simply replaces the spark. We hook it to a computer system which takes and meters the flow into the injector. This is the water in such a way to release its thermal explosive energy.
The man who invented an engine that can run on water says he's been offered $1 billion in cash by oil-producing countries to sell his patent. So far, he hasn't sold. Environmental specialist Jan Porter talked to the inventor, who thinks that the U.S. auto industry could produce cars that run on water now if they wanted to.
Our industrial base of the world is based on the utilization of
Stan Meyer has a car that runs on water, and that's drawing crowds at this year's Extraordinary Science Conference in Colorado Springs. Myers has developed what is called the water fuel cell injector. The injector breaks down the water molecule into hydrogen and oxygen, and the hydrogen is what powers the car.
Basically, all we do is replace the spark plug and replace it with the water fuel cell injectors you see right here. We simply feed ordinary non-processed water or processed water in here, and as the water goes into the injector, it hits a very high pulse voltage frequency, which instantly converts it into thermal explosive energy, and as a result, we can run this car down the road on water.
Meyer's invention was introduced in Britain earlier this month, and now the Brits have followed him here.
We recently took a scientific delegation to witness Stan's work, to really evaluate it, and came back saying, this is one of the most important inventions of the century.
The hydrogen is used to run his dune buggy. I don't care if you use rainwater, well water, city water, ocean water. If you don't have any fresh water, go ahead and use snow. If you don't have any snow available to you, then use salt water because there's no adverse effect to the fuel cell. Meyer started working on this project 4 years ago. He's not a scientist. He isn't even a chemist. In fact, he never graduated from college. Myers was determined, he says, to design something to protect this country from oil embargoes. And we have calculated that if we take the dune buggy from Los Angeles to New York, we would roughly use 22 gallons of water. The Pentagon flew a lieutenant colonel in last week to look at Meyer's invention. There's talk of possibly using it in the Star Wars defense program and to run army tanks. Myers is currently perfecting a water fuel cell for cars. It will cost about $1,500. He says it won't need any maintenance, and you won't have to replace it. It'll be at least 2 years before the fuel system goes into mass production. The day it happens will be one the fuel industry hates, but it'll put a smile on the face of those who've had to say at one time or another, fill her up.
I'm Barry Hart, and this is a Fuel Genie hydrogen injection
What do you think?
It installs
Smash the like and drop a comment below.
and 1 pair of scissors inside of 30 minutes. Here's how it's done. The reservoir, and we zip tie the reservoir just like this. To the bracket. There you go. That's where the system will mount. The next thing we're going to do is take a pair of scissors and cut off about 2 inches of hose that's included with the kit. Just like that. Okay, next we have to attach this to the PCV valve hose, and this is the PCV valve hose right here. So we're going to pull this off of the PCV valve input, and here's our piece of 2-inch hose that we did. We're just going to put this piece of hose right onto the port where this hose came from. Now we're going to insert into the hose the T, this T right here that's included with the kit. And that we're going to put on right here. Now we're going to put the PCV valve hose onto the other end of that. And that is our connection for that. Now we take the hose that's also included in the kit and we attach it to the bottom of the T. We're going to run this hose around here so that we can hide it, make it look nice cosmetically. And we're going to run this right over to the reservoir itself. And now the system is hooked up to vacuum. Okay, next we want to attach the connecting wires to the battery. That's very simply done. We just uncoil wires that are included in your kit. So the first thing we're going to do is take our 10mm wrench and we are going to loosen the battery terminal here. This is the positive, so we're going to put the positive right here. Connections to the battery are very important. This particular system here is connected to the battery all the time because all the safety mechanisms and the switches that turn it on and off are sitting underneath the cap here. In fact, this system is a true hydrogen on demand system in that it does not turn on at all unless the engine is running, and we'll see that it works. You notice down here on the very bottom, you see all those small bubbles? That's hydrogen in your engine.
Are these real or not? What do you think?
Come right back to this.
I thought everybody was capping when they were talking about this, but I had to look it up myself. Bro, they're actually serious. That's crazy. No, because I just made a video about how you can get called back within
What
your
the F?
8-year obligation. Regardless of what you got going on, you have an 8-year obligation. But now they're calling back the retirees? Oh my, because you really need to think about it. Why are they calling the retirees back? What is about to happen? What's going on? I don't know what we got planned, but the fact that they're calling retirees back is kind of mind-boggling. I'm thinking about all kinds of things that could happen. They're recalling the retirees.
You heard them. They're recalling the retirees. Why? Why would they do such a thing? Behind me you see Putin doing a candlelight visual for the attack in Moscow. Now if you don't know, all night last night, Ukraine was being bombed. They sent 14 bombers into the air, and guess what? Right now, they sent 26 more in the air, so we're waiting for something big to happen right now. And these were some of the people who went underground in Kyiv to try to stay safe. And what happened was there was one bomb that went into Poland and back out. And this was in Ukraine last night. So Basically, they were firing upon NATO borders, basically, almost. If it wasn't for it turning back into Lviv, I believe, then it'd already be like flat out war. So what's going on with Russia right now? Well, the US Embassy in Moscow is dismantling their cooperation with the Russian government about the terror attack. And all terror attacks, it's the terror division. And this right here is actually a shopping mall in Moscow just about 2 hours ago that's evacuating because of terror threats. Y'all, this will not end well. So remember, I mentioned that missile that went into Poland and turned around. Well, the head of Poland's National Security Bureau literally said that they better start shooting down everything in the alliance's airspace, which is looking like NATO is at war. Speculation alleged, in my opinion. Quick details of what Russia has heading to Ukraine right now. And now we have none other than France and Macron themselves doing a national emergency in France. This being their reasoning. But if you remember correctly, Macron sent 2,000 troops to fight in Ukraine for Ukraine, which literally means we have an open NATO ally openly fighting Russia. More on that can be found here. So again, why are they recalling retirees? I guess it's anybody's best guess. All eyes on Ukraine.
This is so crazy to see.
This is the bottom of the supply chain of your iPhone, of your Tesla, of your Samsung. I mean, I'm just naming those companies.
Right.
It's all of them, right? All of them. We're not just picking on them. And here's what you need to know, Joe, about this video. I was the first outsider to get into this mine. And that's why it's just a really short video that I was able to take. This is an industrial cobalt mine where there's not supposed to be one artisanal miner. Now, that's the term used for people who are just digging by hand as opposed to tractors and excavators. There's not supposed to be one here. That's what the story is told at the top of the chain. This mine, and I can name it, it's called Shabara. There's not supposed to be one artisanal miner here, according to the consumer-facing tech companies and EV companies buying this cobalt. Lo and behold, I walk into this place and this is what I see. There's more than 15,000 human beings crammed into that pit.
This is why you should never go to your school library.
Wait, why the library?
So there was this kid named Adam, and he just moved to a new small town. He enrolled in a new school, but at his old school, he loved going to the library. And he wanted to find where the library was in his new school because that's where he liked to do his homework and studying. So he found it, and he found that it was packed in the library. But he actually liked this because now he could make friends at the library. So he went to a group of kids, and they were super nice to him. They introduced themselves. They let him sit with them, and they just sat there for hours. But they also told him rules of the library that he didn't know. And they told him to never go into the history section of the library because they said it was forbidden, but they wouldn't tell him why. And they also told him to never bother the librarian. And every day at 6 o'clock, all the kids leave, even though the library closes at 8. So Adam asked one of the kids, like, why do we leave at 6 if it's still open for 2 more hours? And all the kid told him, it's never good to stay past 6. And all Adam did was listen, and he didn't ask any questions, so they all just left at 6.
Why did they all just agree to go home at 6?
So a few weeks went by, and Adam and his friends always went to the library, and every day they left at 6. But one day, news broke out that one of the students at their school went missing. But what was weird was nobody seemed bothered by this except for Adam. So one day, Adam wanted to see what went on in the library after 6 o'clock. So when all the kids left one day, he stayed in the library, and after sitting in there, he noticed that it was just a library. Like, there was nothing different than before. It was just less crowded. So Adam decided to just go home because there was nothing wrong with the library. But when he went to the door, he was locked in, even though it was supposed to still be open.
Did his friends lock him in?
No, so Adam thought that there was only one thing left to do, and that was to ask the librarian if she could open the door for him. But he remembers that his friends told him to never bother her. So he searched the whole library trying to find where she is, and he went to the office, he was looking down the aisles, and he couldn't find her. But the only place he didn't look was the history section. So Adam headed to the history section, and right when he turned the corner, he saw a
US state is the worst to live in. Well, apparently the best state to live in is Wyoming. Wyoming's combination of geography, low tax and affordability is what makes it so great for people to live in. But what states are the worst to live in? In 5th place, it's Alabama. Alabama earns 5th spot mostly due to its concerns over education and healthcare. Rates of depression, diabetes and obesity are some of the highest in the whole country. Moving on to 4th place, it's West Virginia. West Virginia has the worst infrastructure infrastructure in the nation, with almost 33% of their roads being in poor condition. A combination of this and the economy and healthcare of West Virginia puts it into 4th place. In 3rd place, it's New Mexico. This state has been in the bottom 5 states for many years. New Mexico's education system ranks last in the country and supposedly has the worst public schools in the country. It has a poverty rate of 17% and 26% of children live below the poverty line. In 2nd place, it's Mississippi. Mississippi ranks 2nd worst and has done for many years. It has the highest obesity rate in the nation, with 38.7% being obese. It ranks last in healthcare due to its low level of accessibility, and nearly 19% of Mississippi lives below the poverty line. And finally, in 1st place, it's Louisiana. Louisiana has been consistently voted the worst state to live in since 2017. It has extreme concerns over crime, with it being number 1 for most homicides per 100,000 people. Do you agree? Let me know down below.
Y'all are saying that y'all used to drink from the hose? Were sinks not an option?
For fuck's sake. Who's gonna tell him? You want me to tell him? I'll tell him. We weren't allowed in the house. I don't know why that's so hard for people to understand. Our childhood was like one never-ending episode of that TV show Survivor, okay? We are indestructible. We've never sat in car seats. Nobody's ever given us swimming lessons. We've all been either shot with a BB gun or stabbed with a fucking jart. The television stations had to make a commercial reminding our parents that they had kids. I shit you not. Every night on the 10 p.m. news, a voice would come on and say, "It's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?" To remind our parents that they had fucking kids. So, no, sir, shirtless with the beanie, sinks were not an option.
See, as you can see, the more you fuck around, the more you're going to find out. And also, if you stay down here and you never fuck around, you'll never find out. So I hope this lesson is helpful. Thank you.
Hey Patriots, what's going on? Adam Newbold here from Ohio, retired Navy SEAL and also special advisor to the CIA.
Remember, these videos are for entertainment purposes only.
Yeah, so I posted a video about staying alive for 3 days, and a lot of people are saying, "Oh, I will die on my hill," meaning that they will defend their home and do it to the death. Well, I understand that, and I don't disagree with that. You have to have an ability to defend your home. You have to have an ability to stay alive, and preparing your home to do so is number one, to sustain life for you and your family. All right, there's a very good chance that the way that we are attacked, it's already started, and that's buying up all the farmland to make it hard to eat, and blowing up and burning up food processing centers, and cutting off supply lines like bridges and stuff like that, railways, EMPs, all right, taking out our electronics, taking down our economy, our monetary system, all right, that's how we are being attacked and will be attacked, cyber attacks. But there may come a time where raiders come to your house, law enforcement, good people do what they are told to do. So, you can expect and you can believe that our very wonderful men and women in blue, many of them will do things that they wouldn't normally do because they are told to do it by an authority figure. And they'll find themselves doing things they swore they would never do. And at some point they might say, hey, this isn't wrong, and they decide to stand up and resist against it, but by that point it might be pretty far into the game. So, as a military man, I can tell you,
unbelievable.
I was being told every single day of my military career that what I was doing was for winning hearts and minds and spreading democracy. That was all bullshit. That wasn't true. Some of the things that we were doing, I'm very, very proud of my military service. I'm so proud of the people that I got to work with, the most amazing people in the world. But, the real reasons that we were places that we were are far more nefarious than what we were told. All right. Certainly there were national interests, American interests where we were, but it was far beyond that. It's the global elites playing, you know, us all like pawns, and I don't just mean individuals, I mean countries, you know. So they do what they want, and we are, you know, we're the ones that have to deal with it. So at some point you may get driven from your home, you know. Who knows why? You might say, I'm standing my ground, I will die here. But you might be taken away in cuffs. Your family members might be taken away, and you have to leave. You know, I want you to look at Waco, Texas, and I want you to look at Ruby Ridge, and kind of see how some of that's, you know, those two things played out. And those were people that were doing things, whether you agree with them or not, that should be constitutionally protected. Now, Waco, I'm not necessarily sure about all that. That guy was doing some stuff that maybe wasn't so cool. But the government got involved to the point of burning people alive, killing them all, you know. And then, of course, Ruby Ridge, that's a whole nother story. You know, a lot of things that our government does is very unconstitutional. The taxes that we pay, many of them are absolutely against the Constitution. So we're in a time where at some point people are going to stand up, and when you stand up and you don't step in line, there may be folks that come to get you in line, and you need to be prepared for that. So I am just saying that it's not a great idea to have all of your eggs in one basket. So you should have some of your supplies off-site, because you might end up being off-site. Hell, it might be that you're away from your home when they come and take over your home. All right? And you're coming home and you can't get back into your home. So, you know, let me turn that on. But it is a very good idea to have some things off-site. And then what do we do for 3 days? Why only 3 days? 3 days just gives you a chance to stay alive. When people come and hit a target, as a SEAL, we would come hit a target. Rarely were we on target more than 3 days. All right. Normally it's just 1 day, but we would secure the target, do our search and our recce, or our, you know, look and see our site survey and see what intel we got and what we need to get and collect. Then would be off target. But rarely would we ever be on target more than 3 days. And that gives time for dust to settle. They're looking for you. They go away. They have other things to do. And you can assess, what do I do now? So that's just a short-term thing. All right. If you're, and that's for the people that you're trying to think of, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? I'm just telling
That's
you,
a hero in my book.
Preparation,
what do you think?
to start with,
drop your comments below.
Making sure that you and your family can sustain life. If you get everything taken away from you, except for just a few things that you can grab and go, you can sustain life for a minimum of 3 days. During that 3 days, you can figure things out. All right? That's all I'm saying. That's not the end of the plan. That's just a starting point. All right. Stay strong, Patriots. Bad times are coming. We've got weak people. So that makes difficult times. You know the saying. You know the old saying from the sea. Just kidding. Thinking the movie Something About Mary. You know that old children's tale from the sea. 7's the key number. All right, guys. If you're a patriot, man, I love you. And times are interesting, to say the least. No better time to be alive. For us, it's our time. No better time to be alive. For patriots, stand strong. Don't yield. All right? Resist, resist, resist. You know what's right. Don't forget what's right, and do what's right without regard to consequence. But stay alive. You're not good to anyone dead. All right? Stay alive. All right. Hoo-yah.
Grid that's over the top of the world. It's very significant.
Interesting, is it not?
This very aggressive looking symbol underneath it. Anybody recognize that symbol? The World Bank. the World Bank. And a book that I would highly recommend to you. By the way, I don't usually bring so much of my research material, but with this particular subject, so many people think that this is just fantasy. I have to bring some material so that if you want, later on, you can come and have a look for yourselves. But this is a book called The Confessions of an Economic Hitman by a guy called John Perkins, who spent many years working for the World Bank or for subsidiaries of the World Bank. And his job was to go into developing nations and persuade the governments to buy into massive credit plans, basically to bring that developing nation government into hock. Because just like on the microcosm, you know, once you've got an individual in serious debt, basically you've got them under control. If you can get a nation into serious debt, then, you know, you basically have them where you want them. And it shouldn't come as any great surprise to you that there's a very common denominator between all the countries that are classified as the axis of evil. This Bush term. And it's the countries like Cuba, North Korea, Iran, recently Russia. Anybody wondered why Russia has been demonized in the media, basically, for the last 6 months? Well, all of these countries, and Venezuela, of course, and an increasing number of Latin American countries, as Venezuela and Chavez starts to find ways to help these guys out of their debt to the World Bank. All of these countries that are part of the axis of evil are free of debt. And Russia paid off its last installment for all the billions that it borrowed after the collapse of the Soviet bloc back in 1990.
You've got to be kidding me.
So Putin had actually done an amazing job by appointing the 7 ugly sisters, the 7 oligarchs, to manage the industrial recovery. Of course, some of those oligarchs got a little bit too carried away and just wanted a bit too much power, and that's why, you know, Putin has a bit of a problem with 1 or 2 of them. But his strategy was absolutely sound, because what he did was he identified the best guys in the country to take their particular industries and bring them, you know, back up to full speed, and obviously enable Russia to become self-sufficient. And Russia's in exactly that position right now. The World Bank has a couple of henchmen to carry out its will, and that is the World Trade Organization, which has been around since 1995, and the World Health Organization. 2 organizations are complete misnomers, because let me assure you that the World Trade Organization has nothing really to do with world trade, and the World Health Organization definitely has nothing to do with health. But basically, any country that is signed up to membership of the World Trade Organization is effectively under the auspices of the UN. The World Trade Organization have deemed it quite legitimate for the US to export its hormone-impregnated beef. And it sees no reason why any nation, certainly any member nation, should reject the importation of contaminated beef, i.e. contaminated with the growth hormone. The EU at the moment refuses to import the American beef, so the EU has to pay a fine to the World Trade Organization of 150 million euros a year, because we don't want their contaminated beef. And that fine will increase as we continue to, as the EU continues to reject it. Then the fine increases until they can, you know, make the pip squeak, and in the end, what they expect you to do is go, okay, we take it. Now, who's going to eat it? Well, but you won't know, because a big part of Codex is to remove the labelling on foods, as we shall see. Now, the EU, a lot of people are under the misapprehension or misimpression that the EU is a democratic organisation. Let me categorically assure you it's not.
You're cursing yourself if you do this. It's the Antichrist cross, which represents the brain and the
My
heart,
head is spinning
cutting
right
the
now.
connection. The reason why
How
this
about
is
you?
bad is because the heart and the brain are directly connected. The cranial brain does the thinking, but every thought you think creates an emotion felt in the heart. In fact, the heart has its own neural network of 40,000 specialized cells, which are the same ones in your brain. So the heart is your second brain. However, the cranial brain has 2 hemispheres, therefore thinking with it can cause confusion and dualism. The heart has an intelligence of its own, just like the brain. However, it's a singular organ. It does not have 2 hemispheres. So when we say follow your heart, This is a deep meaning because the heart has an intelligence of its own which is guiding you. And this is why Jesus is always pointing at the heart. In Freemasonry, the heart is symbolized as the book because the heart intelligence is what you need to read to guide you through this life experience. The heart is what tells you what is right and what is wrong. And when you follow your heart long enough, it takes you to your life purpose. It's easy to listen to your heart intelligence. You have to turn off the thoughts, place your hand on your heart just like Jesus's, and this will tell you the right answer. They don't want us connected to our hearts because we are all an infinite consciousness expressed in different bodies, and love is the unifying force that will bring humanity together.
Remember, these videos are for entertainment purposes only. You've got to be kidding me. What the F?
I made 600 million last year with this product.
Did you make your fortune with this product?
No, I made my fortune with this smart film.
Paste this magical film on glass to turn it into a colorful screen or switchboard glass. It can be used anywhere, including
the beauty facade and museum and office, hotel, and you can also use that for mobile, like a car. I also use the smart film with my car, you see?
Whoa, I also want to install this inside my car. In fact, she replaced the entire glass roof with her new material for better installation.
This new material's heat block ability is like 1 meter thickness wall.
Oh, it really isn't heat at all. Seriously, cars nowadays like to use glass roofs, and you can see through the thermal camera that its insulation is really amazing. You have so many high-tech products. How do you build your technical moat?
Oh, it's my husband. If you want to take my technology away, you have to take my husband away.
Oh. Of course, I can't take her husband away, but I can go to a factory and take away the technology. Honestly, why is your product so competitive?
This machine is our patent machine. We produce it and we design it. You cannot find nowhere in the market.
I'm in charge of the sales. My husband is in charge of the R&D.
So you are the best match.
Yeah, you're right.
I also want to find my best match. If you can introduce me one.
Yeah, I will do that for you.
Thank you. A technician is repairing a LED glass. Grace said that using their new material glass not only insulates heat, but also enables traceless repair, more cost-effective and practical than LED screens. Thank you, Grace, for today's accompaniment, and I will introduce all the customers from my video to you.
Thank you.
But please remember the smart feel for my car, okay?
For sure, I will do that. Also, I will find your best match.
Yeah. For me, the Chinese
It appears that the jackass has decided to defecate right here on stage.
What do you think?
In spite of the millions of people watching, this elderly fool is sliding a Biden right there on stage. As the jackass fills his tighty-whities with Bidenomics, it seems the disgusting aroma has gotten into Dr. Jill's mouth. As the stench of Bidenomics fills the air, President Macaroni seems to savor the pungent aroma, appearing to chew the fart until his eyes begin to water and he is forced to flee the scene. As the scene unfolds, Madame Macaroni appears to be immune to the stench of Bidenomics.
Brother, what's that? What's that, brother?
Well, that's it for today, folks. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe, leave a comment with suggestions of what you would like and videos you would like to see. Until next time, fam.